Welcome to Tamar Bowling Video Ball Reviews.
We need your support, so if you like what we do, please support us by joining our Patreon page.
I'm excited to announce our new partnership with Pure Bowling. Visit our partner pureatbowling.com and use the special code TAMAR when making a purchase to be entered into a monthly drawing.
Today we're looking at the new Storm Crux Prime and how surface affects ball motion on this house shot. We'll jump right in, and we started by shining the Crux Prime with the Storm Xtra Shine product. I could play the Crux going 6 to 3 up the boards, but more typically about 12 to 7 or 8. Honestly, it was surprisingly workable. This ball is generally slow off the friction, which means it's speed sensitive, but however it entered the pocket, it carried. On to 4000 abralon, and for whatever reason the Crux Prime seemed pretty unhappy here on this pattern. While it may have been, an underreaction with polish, you can at least make, adjust to it, and it just seemed totally over-under at 4000. It plays in more or less the same exact area, no change in targeting. It was just very difficult to find the pocket consistently and carry. This is the opposite of what we typically see when putting 4000. Ultimately, I wanted to quickly move away from this surface. Alright, so we moved to 2000 abralon, and this is the factory finish. I can easily report the ball is happiest here, very clearly. Storm obviously did their research with this spec cover. The interesting thing is that so far the lines to strike haven't really changed much at all. And this surface just widened the zone a couple of boards. So while I could use, say, 9 to 7, the 12 to 7 or 8 that was working with a polished ball also works, but I can also get into 14 to 9 and still get good motion. This ball has a pretty unique motion with the spec cover not really absorbing oil. Alright, stepping down to 1000 abralon, and now with this much surface it's starting to make a difference, especially in the friction. First ball about 10 to 7 will not hold. I jumped several boards and tried the 14 to 9, which was the limit with the 2000, but it really wasn't happy. So back to about 12 or 13 through the fronts to 6 or 7 at the break point, and bang. It wants to see some friction, but ultimately I didn't have to move away from the same area. The heavy oil in the middle of the house shot just seems to slow this ball down, from making this transition, and it's slow responding to friction, so you have to give it time to react. When it does, it really hits. If it doesn't get a chance to get into a roll, you get this. Alright, so finally 500 abralon, and at this amount of surface, we're finally seeing early reaction with the 12 to 7 line that has worked with every other surface. With this much surface, it also uses up energy pretty quickly, so it can labor even more. It's become very tricky to use because it still wants to see some friction to start the turnover, but it's also expending energy, making the turnover a bit incomplete. It just feels like the balance of core and cover on this particular pattern somehow goes away with this much surface. Alright, so our conclusions. Ultimately, on this pattern, a couple of characteristics are clear for the Storm Crux Prime. First is that surface changes might change the way it reacts on a given pattern, but it generally did not require significant moves. The Crux Prime shapes the same way with pretty much any surface on the cover stack. The ball simply plays where it wants to play. Second, it's happiest at 2000 abralon surface it comes in out of box. It was surprisingly good with polish, which is interesting to note. All in all, this is a pretty unique piece that bowlers have an opportunity to study to understand what they're getting.
Untitled Chapter Tamar Bowling Ball Reviews.